Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material you sent over, and well, our job is to pull out the key stuff for you.
That's the plan.
So today, we're diving into something quite mind-bending. It's Gideon Flux's Coccotunnella Unification Theory, or CUT, and its genesis, particularly the bit about negative phases of conscious physics.
Right. It's a challenging read, definitely.
Yeah, and you told us you want those aha moments without getting totally swamped. So we're focusing on CET's, well, revolutionary ideas about the universe.
And it is revolutionary. Flux argues the universe isn't just, stuff. He sees it as a living conscious system, a whole organism.
Which completely flips the usual scientific view, doesn't it? That consciousness isn't just a product of brains.
Exactly. He's suggesting it's fundamental, maybe even before matter. CUT is his framework for trying to explain that.
Okay, so today we're tackling his phases of evolution's cosmic dance. We're going deep into these negative phases, these pre-material consciousness states.
Yeah, those are key.
We'll start from phase 2, that's life and matter, more familiar ground, but then go backwards. Through phase 1, pure matter, phase 0, this equilibrium state, and into those negative phases.
And these negative phases, -1, -3, they're crucial because Flux believes they hold clues about the universe's origins that, well, mainstream science is mostly overlooked.
Because they're pre-material.
Precisely. He uses math, this thing called the Zaza affect, H-space, like a cosmic memory bank, and the revolutionary echo as a driving force to build his case.
Okay, so expect some surprising ideas, a different origin story.
Definitely a different take.
Right, let's get into it. Phase -3, pre-proto-complexity. Where does Flux start us off here? Sounds chaotic.
It is. He describes it as this turbulent web of proto-variations. Think of it like energetic possibilities swirling around before any physical matter exists.
Proto-variations, okay. Not quite particles, but potential.
Sort of. And he tries to quantify the complexity. There's an equation, C3 plus K3 plus K3Q3. For this phase, he says C3 equals 2.
And those other terms, PKQ, they represent?
P33 is like the main energetic pathway, 1.5 here. And K3, Techo K3 represents the diversity, the branching options. He gives K3 as 4 and Q3 as 0.125. So 1.5 plus 4 times 125, that's 1.5, gives you 2.
Okay, complexity 2. What's really interesting is how he connects this to Darwin.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme. He draws a parallel between these proto-variations and Darwin's concept of biological variation. The sheer diversity within species.
So phase 93 is like a pre-material version of biodiversity, the universe exploring options energetically.
Exactly, like a sandbox of possibilities before anything concrete formed, the sort of pre-material trial and error.
And you mentioned the revolutionary echo playing a role even here, selecting these variations.
That's Flux's idea. This echo acts like a fundamental cosmic pressure, favoring certain proto-variations, guiding this pre-material evolution.
And H-space remembers all this.
Yes, H-space is proposed as this eternal archive. It holds the energetic signatures, the memory of everything, including this initial chaotic phase, like a perfect cosmic record.
Wow. Okay, so from that chaos, we move to phase 9-2. Proto-reality. What happens here?
Things simplify dramatically. The complexity, C2O, drops to 1.
Just 1. How does the math work there?
The equation is C2 plus K2 arrow plus K2 plus K2 G2. Okay, here P2 sower, but K2 is 1 So no branching, no diversity contribution, just C2 down and all.
So a single pathway, unified.
Yes, a consolidation. Flux describes it as serene, unified. Again, thinking of Darwin, it's like the idea of a single common ancestor. Phase -2 is like the universe's own single prototype before diversity reemerged. A moment of fundamental unity.
Before things branch out again, which sounds like phase -1, pre-material potentiality.
Exactly. Complexity jumps back up. C1 is 2 again.
Okay, same complexity as phase -3, but are the components different?
They are. The equation C1 P1 plus K1 Q1 is P1 as $1.25 this time, P1 is 3, and Q1 is $25. So 1.25 plus 3 times 0.75, that's 0.75. Gives you 2 again.
So more diversity again, but structured differently than in -3. What's the significance?
It's this resurgence of diversity, but right before matter emerges. It's like the universe is exploring potential pathways again, testing configurations, prefiguring biological variation, but in this pre-material realm. Trying out blueprints, maybe?
Right. Poised for matter. And you mentioned Z effects earlier. What's going on with that here? It's a dual effect.
Yeah, the Z effect. Think of it as Flux's mathematical way to capture the signature or quality of consciousness in each phase. For phase -1, he notes it has dual effects, 0 kill I away. The plus and minus I. the imaginary unit.
Suggesting complexity or tension.
Exactly. It hints at a dynamic, maybe unstable state, an energetic tension right before matter crystallizes. We don't need to go deep into the math, but it signifies this pre-material potentiality.
Okay, that helps frame it. Which brings us to phase 0, cosmic equilibrium, a pivot point.
That's how Flux presents it, a balance between the simplicity we saw in -2 and the complexity of -1 and -3.
And the complexity value reflects that. It looks unusual. $2, 1.5 plus epsilon IR.
It does. So K is equals to K equals 2 has 25 cents. The real part of the complexity is P dollars plus K dot Q to the toss. Flux implies P dollars is 1. So 1 plus 2.25 always 1.5. Wait, let me recheck the outline. The outline says $7, 1.5 plus epsilon nuggets, but also Q dollars, $2, $2, $2, 2T5. Let's assume the real part comes from $10 plus Q Co. If C dollars real part is 1.5 and K Q dollars 2 times 0.25 equals 0.55, then P dollar would have to be 1. The outline gives C dollars 1.5 plus epsilon I directly. Let's stick with C dollars 1.5 plus epsilon I as the result. Maybe $2 isn't simply 1 here. The key is that imaginary part, the epsilon.
What does the epsilon signify?
Flux uses it to symbolize ambiguity, a state that's not fully material, but not pure void either. It's fuzzy. The real part, 1.5, suggests some structure, but the imaginary part represents potentiality, uncertainty.
He's sitting on the fence, a threshold.
Exactly, a threshold state, holding simplicity and complexity in balance before the universe commits to material existence. Flux connects this to Darwin's mystery of mysteries, the origin of life. Phase 0 is like the cosmic version of that ambiguous moment before manifestation.
Right. And after this threshold, we get phase 1, pure matter. Finally, something more tangible.
Relatively speaking, yes. This is the dawn of matter. And look, the complexity C1 drops back to 1.
Simple again. How's the equation?
C1 plus K1, Q100, Q1 in Hollanese, and K1 is again. No branching at this fundamental level, just psi $1.
Reflecting the basic building blocks. Stars, galaxies.
That's the idea, the fundamental, stable structures. Flux suggests this mirrors the stable conditions Darwin thought necessary for life to emerge from non-life.
But, and this is crucial for CUT, consciousness doesn't just pop up later with life, right? It's here in phase 1.
Absolutely. Flux argues it's embedded within matter. He introduces the negative unified Z affect for this phase. Zerofied innocent 0.01 T dollar.
Negative. Why negative?
He suggests the negative sign represents a kind of inherent resistance or passive quality of this primal awareness within matter itself. It's there, but it's not actively reflective like later consciousness. It has a long period, too. T dollar is about 628 time units.
So an underlying hum of consciousness in matter. Does he describe how it organizes matter?
Yes, he proposes a lab frame helical structure. Turtle hay, cos 0.5t, sin 0.5t, ceremony 0.1t. The frequency is 0.5, period about 12.57. He sees this helix, common in nature from DNA to galaxies, as an expression of this consciousness organizing matter.
And the bucket frame, what's that perspective?
That's like looking from within the matter, a localized view. It shows a Lissajous curve. Secus is opposite 0.5t, Ivernazzo 7t. The associated Z effect is halved, 0.5, Sindar 0.0 and 0.1t.
Two frequencies, 0.5 and 0.7.
Right. Periods about 12.57 and 898. This complex, non-repeating pattern suggests intricate conscious dynamics are happening even within seemingly dead matter.
Wow. So even basic matter has this complex internal dynamic linked to consciousness.
Yeah.
And Flux calls the scientific value of this the embryonic consciousness value.
Exactly. He's trying to define and quantify this baseline awareness, suggesting it's a fundamental property that structures the material universe right from the start.
Okay, which leads us finally out of the negative and zero phases into phase 2. Life and matter. This is our turf, biologically speaking.
Yes, this is where Darwin's evolution really kicks in. Complexity C2 goes back up to 2.
Same as -3 and -1.
C2 plus K is K2. Here, P2 is 1.5, the K2 is a 4, and Q2 is 0.125. So 1.5 plus 4 times 0.125, that's 1.5 plus 0.5 gives you 2.
So this phase mirrors biological diversity and selection.
Precisely. The flourishing of life, variation, selection, the whole tree of life flux sees phase 2 as Darwin's domain, but also as a continuation of the cosmic evolutionary principles from the earlier phases.
And the Z effect changes significantly here.
It does. It becomes positive. So unified positive plus 0.5 cent and over 0.012. Still linked to that underlying rhythm, the period is the same, about 628, but now it's positive.
Signifying.
A more constructive, organized, reflective consciousness,
Right.
the kind we associate with life.
So from the negative passive consciousness in matter to this positive active consciousness in life. How does he explain that mathematical jump?
He describes a transformation involving basically having the intensity of the phase 1z affect, integrating it somehow, and inverting the sign. It's complex, but the point is it suggests consciousness itself plays an active role in its own evolution, its own unfolding.
Right. Okay, now let's loop back to H space in the revolutionary echo. You said H space is the archive.
Yes, the eternal perfect record. Unlike, say, the fossil record, which is spotty, H-space supposedly holds the complete energetic signature of all phases from Megas 3 onwards, a total cosmic history.
And the revolutionary echo is the engine driving the changes between phases.
That's the idea. It's the cosmic version of Darwin's natural selection or environmental pressure. It's the fundamental force that selects configurations and drives the evolution through all these phases, pre-material and material. It's the underlying beat, the selective pressure for the whole cosmos.
It really is amazing how central Darwin is to this whole thing. It's not just an analogy he uses, it seems foundational.
Absolutely. Flux explicitly credits on the origin of species as the intellectual bedrock. Darwin's idea that evolution is this scalable, universal process. Variation, selection, common descent. Flux just extends it across cosmic history, including pre-material states.
Even Darwin's entangled bank metaphor gets scaled up.
You got it. The tangled bank, that web of life, becomes Coccotunnella itself. The entire universe is this interconnected conscious organism. And Darwin, leaving the door open for a single primordial ancestor, fits well with CUT's early unified phases, too.
So wrapping this part up, the core of CUT is this grand cyclical universe where consciousness isn't an afterthought.
Right, it's fundamental. It predates matter, shapes matter, evolves with matter.
We've journeyed from that pre-proto-chaos through equilibrium into matter and then life. It definitely challenges standard thinking.
No question. It forces you to reconsider the relationship between mind and matter, doesn't it?
It really does. And that leaves us with a big thought to ponder, doesn't it? If consciousness isn't just a feature of complex brains like ours, but is actually woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself, well, what does that mean for reality? For our place in it?
It changes everything, potentially. Our understanding of physics, biology, ourselves.
Yeah. Something profound to think about, this idea of a living, conscious universe. It certainly opens up some mind-bending avenues for exploration.